If you want to know how to add reverb to your vocals like your favorite rappers, this is the perfect video for you. Say goodbye to washed out vocals and muddy mixes, and say hello to reverb revitalization. But before we follow a strict workout regimen until we lose our hair and become the strongest being in existence, I've got a question for you. That question is, how do you stop your reverb from washing out your vocals? Leave your answer in the comment section down below, even if it's a guess. If you don't know, don't worry, because I'll be revealing the answer later on in the video. Just stay tuned. Now let's get into it. There are two main reverbs you need to use to get a good, high quality professional vocal for your verses and your choruses. First reverb is a plate reverb. Second reverb is a hall reverb. The plate reverb will be a short reverb, the hall reverb will be a long reverb, and you'll use these two together to get the end result that we're going for. This is a song that I created earlier. It's called Truth Hurts, and let's turn on all the effects and let's play it so you can hear this in action with our reverbs and all that sort of stuff. This is what it sounds like.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Never shared a bed, never thought that it was love. Never saw a future where it was just us. Ooh. Let's play me.
Next thing you need to understand is to always add an EQ after your reverb if you don't want a muddy mix. Adding reverb can really muddy your mix very, very quickly because it adds a lot of frequencies that you don't really want clashing with everything else in your mix. So EQ is a great way to get rid of some of those frequencies, and I'll show you exactly how to do that later as we get deeper into the video. But first, I'll explain the reverb settings that matter and how to get the right numbers for those reverb settings to get your reverb sounding better and how you want it to sound. Then I'll explain how to use EQ to stop your reverbs from sounding muddy and unprofessional in the mix. And these two things together will have your reverbs sounding better and more professional. But before we even add our reverb, the first thing you need to do is this. You need to add a send channel. In Studio One, this is called an effects channel, and you just right click, go to add effects channel. And what this is a channel that you'll send your original audio to, and then you can affect that copied signal of that audio, which is where you want to add your reverb and all the other effects. So let's undo that, and I'll show you how we do that. Make sure that your reverb plugin that you're using is only outputting the wet signal. So for example, this is the plate reverb that I'm currently using, and this is only outputting the wet signal. As you can see, it's 100% wet. That's what you want. Wet, wet, wet. That sounds hilarious. Now let's start with the plate reverb. Let's quickly show you our vocal without any reverb, and then we'll add in the plate reverb. So this is what it sounds like without any reverb.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a.
And then if we add both of the reverbs on, this is what it sounds like.
Friends like we never had sex before.
You can hear it adds a lot straight away. So let's just add our plate reverb, and then we'll turn it off and turn it back on so you can see the difference.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Never shared a bed, never thought that it was love. Never saw a future where it was just.
It just makes it sound more lush, more spacious, more crisp somehow. It just makes it sound better, yeah? Without it, it sounds very dry. It sounds like, what's this? This is very digital. When you actually add the reverb, it sounds like, oh, you were somewhere actually performing this. This sounds right somehow. With the plate reverb, we want to make it short and hardly noticeable, but as you can see, it does make a difference. If we just solo it, you'll hear it even clearer. So we're going to click it on and click it off. Pay attention here so you can see when it's on and when it's off.
Pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Never shared a bed, never thought that it was love. Never saw a future.
Very, very straightforward. Now, these are the settings you need to pay attention to. Let's open up our reverb. Reverb time or decay. Different reverbs will have different labels for this, but it'll either be called reverb time or decay. This basically determines how long it takes for your reverb to go away. Really what you're going for is to make your reverb decay before the next vocal line comes in generally, and how long the decay is really depends on the type of performance that you're giving. If you're doing a long drawn out ballad type singing, then you want a larger decay because there's going to be more space between the lines. If you're doing a very snappy, rappy or rap singy type verse or type performance, then you want a shorter decay because there's going to be less space between lines. Does that make sense? Good. You basically want your reverb to fill the space when the vocals aren't there, but go away when the vocals come back in. And with your particular plate reverb, you want this to be short. You don't want it to be too long. And because I'm generally doing a rap singy type vibe, they will generally be short as well. Now, to get the numbers, this is the maths equation you need to do. To get your reverb time and pre-delay in time with your song, you want to use this formula. You want to do 60,000 divided by whatever BPM you're using. Let's quickly check our BPM. BPM for this track is 145. That's 60,000 divided by 145 equals 413. And you basically want to look at this as 0.413 in terms of milliseconds. So we want to times this by 2 until we get over 1,000. So times by 2, and then this will be about 1.6. That's where we want to start with our actual delay time. So if we go back to our delay here, we can see it's on 1.97 because this was done with a different BPM and I just haven't changed it since because it just works. But 1.6 or 1.7 would be a good starting point. And then you would basically maneuver this and go up or down until it sounds right. So let's listen back to this and see.
It was just us. Ooh. Let's play make-believe like we couldn't see it coming. Make it seem like if we had the choice, we wouldn't take off running, huh? Let's act like we love the way it turned out. Force a smile with both our lips like it don't hurt now. Nothing was the same. Got me.
As you can hear, it's decaying before the next line is coming in and it's not washing out the next line, which is super, super important. If that doesn't happen, it can get very muddy and very sound like too much is going on very quickly. You want it to be at least over 1,000, so over 1. So this would be 165, like so. So once it's over 1 point whatever, you can mess around with it until you get it to your taste. But this is a good starting point. If you want this all done for you, you can use this template that I'm using right now. I actually haven't edited this at all. This is actually just me recording in this template. Haven't mixed it yet, but it sounds this good already. It's basically Spotify ready. If you want those same results in the same amount of time, which is no time at all because the template does it all for you, you can grab this template, link down below, go to jcarterray.com/vocal templates. This also comes with a PDF that walks you through all the settings that I use for every single track. So if you don't want to use the same plugins, you want to use your own plugins, and you don't want to use the same DAW, you want to use a different DAW, you can simply use the PDF, import the same settings, create your own template using that PDF and get the same kind of sound set up very, very quickly. Have your song half mixed before you even get to the mixing stage. Very, very important. It's going to save you a lot of time and it's going to have your songs sounding way better, way more professional and Spotify ready. Link down below. The next most important setting is pre-delay. Pre-delay is important to make sure that your words are clear and they come through before the reverb hits. If you have no pre-delay, when your vocal starts making noise, you'll get reverb immediately. And that will make it harder for you to actually hear those words in the vocal. You want your vocal to come in and then the reverb to come in a little bit after. That's the pre-delay. Let's show you an example. So as you can see, this is currently 49.3. So let's save this for when we come back into it. But let's turn this all the way down and we'll listen to what it sounds like with our pre-delay at 0.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest.
There is reverb immediately. And when we add some pre-delay, it makes it so the words come through and then the reverb comes through. So it makes the words cut through cleaner.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Never shed a
way better. Super, super important. If you're not doing this, that's why your vocals are getting washed out. Trust me, pre-delay is very, very important. Pre-delay, as I said, controls how long it takes before the reverb starts working from when that vocal audio is activated. Now, in order to set your pre-delay, you want to use the same formula as last time. 60,000 divided by 145. Let's do that one more time. Then you want to divide this number until you're below 100 milliseconds. So below 100. This 413 would be 413 milliseconds. That's why over 1,000 is over 1 second, because there's 1,000 milliseconds in a second. So we want to get under 100 milliseconds. So you want to divide by 2 again. And we got 103, divide by 2 one more time. We get 51. This is where we'd start with our pre-delay. And as you can see, we're at 49.3. It's pretty close and it's perfect. We don't really need to change it up. This is where we want to be. But this is a good starting point. When you get this number, you get that starting point, and then you can use that starting point and move around from there until you get the sound that you want, just like we did with the decay time. So with the decay time, you times it by 2 until you get over 1,000. With the pre-delay time, you divide it by 2 until you get under 100. That formula again is 60,000 divided by whatever your BPM is. This is 145 BPM. So 60,000 divided by 145, depending on your BPM, it will be a different number. So if 150 divided by 150, 140 divided by 140. Hope you understand. The next step is our long haul reverb. So we got our main short plate reverb. Let's deal with our long haul reverb. So let's turn off our plate reverb and turn on our long haul reverb so you can hear what that sounds like. And then we'll play it back, turning it on and turning it off. On.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Never shared a bed, never thought that it was love. Never saw a future where it was just us. Ooh. Let's play make-believe like we couldn't.
So it's bigger and it's got a longer tail than our plate reverb. Let's go into our long haul reverb here. As you can see, the decay time's longer. The size is larger. Our pre-delay is pretty much the same because we still want our words to come through at the same rate. We don't really need to change the pre-delay here. It's just the decay and the size that we want to change, and the reverb type. This is a hall reverb. The last one was a plate reverb. With our long hall reverb, we want our decay to be longer. Bet you didn't work that one out, right? So we want to use the same method as before, 60,000 divided by 145 and then timesing it by 2. So let's just times this by 2. And we got to 3310. We could divide by 2. What did we get to? 1655. So I think we got at like 3.96. So we could start at 3310 and then go up and see what we find. So that would be a good starting point. You generally want it to last longer than your short reverb. So wherever your short reverb was at, I would just times it by 2 and then start moving around from there until you get the sound that you want. And you want the reverb still to dissipate before the next line.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Never shared a bed, never thought that it was love. Never saw a future where it was just us. Ooh. Let's play make-believe.
It doesn't have to dissipate completely, but you do want it going down before the next vocal line. And as you can hear, this reverb doesn't get in the way of the next vocal line, which is the most important thing. You don't want it to be super loud and super in the way of anything. That type of mixing and using the decay time really will make the difference there. So bringing the volume down and making sure that it's not overbearing and getting in the way of the next line is what you want to do here. And as I said, use the same pre-delay as before. And next, on these reverbs, you need to add EQ. On this particular reverb, RB by Able Tunes, which is quite a good reverb, it actually gives you EQ. So you have a EQ that's ingoing, which you can use, and then you have an EQ that's outgoing. Now, what you want to do with this EQ is cut out some of the low end and cut out some of the high end. So in the ingoing EQ input, I've cut out some of the low end, I've left the high end. But the most important part is the post reverb EQ, because that's when you start adding all those extra frequencies that will make your song muddy. So at this point, you want to cut out low frequencies to make sure it's not getting in the way of the bass and everything like that, and cut out high frequencies so it's just less in the way of everything. So that's what we've done for that. And then with this one, we've mainly cut out the high frequencies because there wasn't a lot of low frequencies coming through, because we had already cut out most of that in the input stage. So we left that over there. Just to play it safe, you could just add a cut over here, cut to about 70, 100, generally will work out. But I think when I did this, I just didn't need it. Like, it just wasn't cutting out what I wanted to, and maybe it just didn't give me the sound that I wanted to. Let's listen back.
Leave like we couldn't see it coming. Make it seem like if we had the choice, we wouldn't take off running, huh? Let's act like we
it just, there was no sound there. There was no sound there, so I didn't do it. But to play it safe, even if there's no sound there, there might still be some frequencies getting through that you're just not seeing. So you can definitely just cut that out anyway. So generally, you just want to cut out the high end, cut out the low end until it's not getting in the way. Just do that box. I love doing a box. It's called a band pass, and getting rid of anything on either side. And that's how you EQ your reverb and have it sounding less muddy. Get rid of that muddiness. Now, earlier on, I asked you a question, and I'm a man of my word, so I'm going to answer that question right now. That question was, how do you stop reverb from washing away your vocal? And if you've been paying attention, you should already know. The answer is pre-delay. You use pre-delay to make sure that your vocal cuts through before the reverb even starts reverbing. So pre-delay will allow your vocal to come through and not be washed out. No pre-delay will have your vocals washed out. That's the way it works. Pre-delay is super important. So if you haven't been using pre-delay until now you know why your reverbs have been washing out your vocals and your vocals just ain't sounding as clean as you want them to. Now let's quickly recap a few things. So with plate reverbs, you want everything to be short. Short pre-delay, short decay times, less size, basically just less tail, less going on. With your long haul reverb, you want it to be a bit longer. So more tail, more size, same pre-delay. And in order to get your starting point of what numbers you should enter for your pre-delay, 60,000 divided by your BPM, divide it by 2 until it's under 100. And then you can either keep on dividing it by 2 or find a spot and move it around until you get the sound that you want. With your decay time, 60,000 divided by your BPM, times it by 2 until it's over 1,000, then keep on timesing it by 2 or move it around when you find that spot. Let's listen back with both of our reverbs on.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Never shared a bed, never thought that it was love. Never saw a future where it was just us. Ooh. Let's play make-believe like we couldn't see it coming. Make it seem like if we had the...
Epic, lush, beautiful. Now, if you want 5 of my best beats for absolutely free, link down below or over there for in the end screen. If you don't have beats that you have the rights to use, you can't get your music heard by getting it on streaming platforms like Spotify. These beats come with 5 basic licenses to use them, so you can use them on Spotify and all that sort of stuff. And you need to, if you want people to hear your music, because that's where people listen to music, so grab them while they're still available and while they're still free. If you've got any questions or any other videos you want me to make, let me know in the comment section down below. Check out that video next, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.